Now, this approach to public narrative is based on an approach to leadership. And so I want to be explicit about that to begin with, because leadership is one of those words that can mean many, many things. The approach that I take is rooted in 3 questions posed by a first century Jerusalem scholar, Rabbi Hillel, who, when asked, how do I figure out what to do in the world, responded with 3 questions to ask yourself. And the first question was, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? Not a selfish question, but a self-regarding question. In other words, if you presume to take responsibility for leadership, you better be clear about what's in it for you, what you expect from it, what you bring to it, and what it's about. But the second question he says to ask yourself is, if I am for myself alone, what am I? Because to be a who and not a what is to recognize that we exist in this world in relationship with others. And our capacity to realize our objectives is inextricably wrapped up with the capacity of others to realize theirs. And finally, he says, ask yourself, if not now, when? I don't think it's advice to jump off a bridge. It is a caution against what Jane Addams described as the snare of preparation. Just another year of strategic planning, and finally we'll have the perfect plan, and then we'll do it, and the world will totally conform to our plan. Is that what happens? No, I've never seen it happen. Or, I just need another degree, and finally I'll be ready to face the world. Well, some of that around here. The point is that the point of this is that rarely can we learn to do well what we hope to do until we actually begin to do it. In other words, understanding flows from action. It does not precede it. And we can get stuck wanting to have the perfect plan, but of course, that's not how the world works. So for me, leadership is about the interaction of these three elements: self, other, and action. And it's also important that that Hillel is not the answer man. These are questions that he poses, and it's appropriate because if you think about what the domain of leadership is it your experience that when everything is going great, people are all excited about, oh, let's go tell the leadership so we can thank them? When do people say, who's in charge here? Yeah, it's a problem, right? And so it's understanding the domain of leadership is not certainty, it's uncertainty. It's the ambiguous, it's the contradictory, it's the problems. That's when the adaptive capacity for leadership really matters. And that's pretty challenging in itself, because you sort of ask yourself certain questions. Do I have the skills I need to deal with this new challenge, a challenge to the hands? Can I use my resources in new ways to achieve my purposes? A strategic challenge to the head. And then there's the question of where do I get the courage, the hopefulness? How do I inspire the courage and hopefulness in others to take the risks involved in actually dealing with serious challenges? And that's a challenge to the heart. So it's a way of thinking of leadership in a head, hands, heart way. And this evening we're going to focus particularly on the heart dimension. So much work on leadership is done on the head and hands that we do strategy and skills, but we forget about the motivational component, which is in many ways more foundational to the whole thing. So the definition of leadership that we're going to use is that it's about accepting responsibility for enabling others to achieve shared purpose under conditions of uncertainty. So this is not an idea of leadership as diva, right? Or leadership as sun, and if you get close, you get warm, or you get heat or burned, or whatever happens when you get too close. It's not that. It is leadership as a form of social interaction around shared purpose, under conditions of uncertainty, and that's how we're going to approach it. Now, organizing is a particular form of leadership that begins by asking the question, who are my people? Who is my constituency? Who is my community? Who are the people with whom I'm engaging in a leadership relationship? Because it's a relational understanding of leadership. It's not leadership as performance, it's leadership as relationship, as engagement. And what are the problems that they face from their lived experience, from their perspective? What is the change they need? And thirdly, how can I work with them to enable them to turn their resources into the power they need to achieve that change? And so it is based on the idea of constituency. So this is not leadership, this is not providing services to grateful clients. This is not marketing products to customers who will pay for those products. It's about enabling people to come together and form a constituency, which comes from the Latin constare, which means to stand together. To bring people together, to stand together, learn together, decide together, act together, and win together. So that's what organizing is about.